tough now. Almost as tough as me. Almost. I don't think I've ever met anybody who thought was tougher than me. And then there he is, man. But you know, I went to bed that night, and I got up, and of course I was praying for him as I went to sleep, and I was thinking about it even when I was sleeping. And he was between Fort Wayne and Rochester, and that is like no man's land. Man, there's no place to stop a truck there except alongside the road at one intersection, if they plow it out. So I know he was in between there, and he's trying to get a hold of people, and the cell service is spotty, and he's driving in the dark, and his arm is going. There must have been a half a quart of blood on the floor of that truck. All of that, huh? And he said that when he was in that condition, his mind kept saying, you know, if you just laid down, you'll feel better. It's a good thing he didn't listen to that. Because I think if he would have laid down, he'd be dead. Because he laid down in the bed and probably bled out and passed out and died right there in the truck. And I don't think that's an exaggeration. I do not think that is an exaggeration of the situation. Do you? No, not in any way an exaggeration of the situation. He was that close to passing out when he walked in. Now, how much does God love Andy? You say, well, no, maybe that was the devil trying to kill you. I think it was God trying to get his attention. Not that God cut his arm or, brought him that close to death, but there are issues in his life, issues in my life. God will bring us right up to the edge so that we will address those issues so that we can become something more. So that we can become something better. Where in your life have you faced these kinds of issues? When have you been right up against it and you've not been honest with yourself? And you're blaming the devil and you're blaming other people. And you're distant from the love of God, and you don't understand His care for you, and you can't see past the situation you're in. And then years later, you look back and there it is. In, full color. High definition, there it is. There was God's care for your life. I don't know that it's necessary to come that close to dying before you wake up. There is a move of God in our midst. Got one amen. There is a move of God in our midst. There's a move of God! God! I heard a guy preach like that once. I didn't like it. Lame. That's what we do at our house, lame. You ever see me do that? You know what's up. Secret's out. This is lame. Lame. It's not necessary. Look at the suffering of Christ. See what sin did to Him. And it's not necessary to go there. The price that Jesus paid for sin, for your sin, for my sin, for everybody's sin, yes, but for my sin is enough suffering. Amen? It's enough if we will recognize it, if we will acknowledge it, if we will realize that all the suffering that has needed to be suffered has been paid, all the cost has been absorbed. Everything has been paid in full through Christ's suffering. We need not suffer on our own anymore. What shall separate us from the love of God? It's a pretty big list, huh? Verse 38. Neither death, You know where each one of us is going to die. And when you're this age, second row, it seems a long way off, amen? But when you're this age, it doesn't seem that far off anymore, does it, Davy? It does not. You wonder how you made it this far. Amen. We'll point up, amen. Every one of us will see death, and it will not separate us from the love of Christ, amen. Those of us who love Him, those who trust Him. This is key. You know, it's one thing to know that Jesus is Lord. It's another thing to trust that Jesus is the Lord. It's a third thing to submit yourself to the fact that Jesus is Lord. Submission to the fact that Jesus is Lord requires a change in behavior. Left out of the gospel that is being preached in the pulpits of today, in almost every pulpit of the day, I'll say that again, in almost every pulpit of the day, almost every pulpit of the day, is the gospel of obedience and self-responsibility. When my kids disobey, the hammer comes down. It hasn't come down in a long time because I thought, if I make an impression on them when they're little. Raise up a child in the way he shall go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. That's Bible, by the way. And I can remember Jenny said, "Don't do it, he's just a nice little boy. He's my baby." I can remember picking him up, and you'll think it's bad. Do you remember? Picking him up and saying, "That is enough. The only reason you still live is because I don't kill you." It is a true story. Because I can. You guys don't do that to your kids? They'll mind. Threat of death. But it's so true, is it not? Now think about God. The only reason that you're still alive is because He doesn't kill you. Because He can. That's in His hands, amen? Yeah, well, it's easy. She said, "I've always left that up to their dad," and he took care of it, didn't he? Yeah, he did. Don't forget the love of God. Your Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be His name. His kingdom come. His will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Amen. Let's look at this list a little bit. I'm not ready to finish. For I am persuaded that neither death nor life. Maybe death's the easy one, huh? Living this life sometimes separates me from the love of God. Does it you? He says, I am persuaded that neither death nor life. Now, He's not saying that it never got in the way. He's saying, educationally wise, what He knows about God, where He is with God, He understands that these things shall not separate us from the love of God. But sometimes life does it not? The day-to-day events, paying the bills, man, going to work sucks. Well, it does. If it doesn't for you, congratulations. You have arrived. I'm trying to get my kids there. I tell them, I said, do what you want and I'll support you so you can be happy. Eventually, you'll make money. I wish somebody would have done that for me. I'm where I am, and I'm glad I've got a decent job, and I'm glad I'm making enough. You know what I'm saying? I'm not unthankful, but going to work sucks. Huh? I'd just rather be in the pie in the sky. I just love Jesus, and he gives me everything. That's the other gospel. This life teaches me to love God. Amen. These difficulties that I go through teach me to love God. I get some of my best sermons on my worst days. So he's persuaded that neither death, nor life, nor angels, nor principalities, nor powers. Let's stop there. We're talking about spiritual stuff. And if you live in a reality that does not acknowledge the spiritual, you're living in a partial reality, not a biblical one, but one of your own making. There is a very real spiritual world, and that spiritual world affects this physical world that we live in. And if we allow it, that spiritual world will separate us from the love of God. That is, we'll go to hell.